Okay, this is Jacob Schmidt with DeerHuntingSchool.com. I'm looking at a piece of property here for someone had sent me an email asking me to take a look at it. Well, the area that I'm looking at, most of it here is field, but if you see my cursor here, it runs down here to this corner of these woods, and then it comes down here, runs down back about right in here. Comes down and then it kind of angles off to here, and it comes up the road. Okay, so most of it is field. The only wooded area is this here. Um, Relatively a small area of woods, but definitely probably has some potential of a few deer using it. William, uh, the stands that you have, I think they're okay. They're on the field edges. Um, Me personally, I like to be back off the field edge a little bit. Um, I don't know how far that you have the stands back off the field edges or whatever. But the other thing that I did notice is, and you had said that it was pretty thick, and you felt like the deer were bedding on here. Um, the other thing that I noticed is you had said there was a fence line. I'm assuming it probably runs here, possibly, but I'm pretty sure that it runs down through this area. Okay, I would definitely get back, walk this fence, and figure out where these deer are crossing, and using that, because usually on fence rows it's pretty easy to tell where the deer are crossing, and just like creek crossings, when deer are crossing creeks, it's pretty simple to see. Now with hunting pressure and different times and things like that, the deer are going to may use different times. That's where it comes into timing and how their patterns change. For the folks watching this, guys, I have a course on timing and hunting mature pressured bucks. You can go to deerhuntingschool.com and on the left hand, right underneath my wife's picture holding a buck, she you can scroll down through there and you can see the different courses. Check them out. But that one there, I recommend it because the deer will change throughout the season as how they will use things. And just looking at this piece of property here, um, as these fields are food sources and things like that, them are going to change and the deer are going to use other things as food sources around this area. One thing I'm going to tell you right now that's fixing, you may not realize it if you haven't lived in very much logging area, guys, or much logging around where you've hunted. Anybody that's watching this, these pines here have been freshly strip cut or thinned, whatever you want to call it. What they do is they come down through and they'll cut strips in them. When they do that, it only takes about a couple years, and this is prime food source for the deer, because what happens, that allows that sunlight to come and penetrate that ground, and that undergrowth is really going to grow up. Within a year after about the first spring, a lot of this is going to get to growing up, and that's going to become prime food source for the deer throughout the summer and a lot of times in the winter, because there's winter weeds and all kinds of different types of foliage can grow up, and they will also evolve. These will evolve into bedding area, and then back into large timber. That's one thing about logged areas; they evolve. Right now, I looked and I scrolled back. I used the timeline and I looked back. That's not the timeline. I'll use the timeline on Google Earth. And guys, someone made a comment on one of my videos, and I got to thinking about it, and they seemed like they had thought that Google Earth is free. Seemed like that one of their comments seemed like that they thought it was you had to pay for it or something. But you can go download Google Earth for free and use a lot of these features. Now they have a pro version. But there's tons of features you can use it for free, and this feature here is in the free model. But I go back to the next picture, 2011, and these are not cut yet. So then I come up to 2013, and they've been cut. Okay, so as of right now, of course, in 2013, this is pretty much fresh dirt, probably a lot of sticks and stuff. It doesn't matter. But and actually, because this was cut early, because this had already been cut in February, this is probably already producing a lot more food than what a person will realize. Okay, and these areas evolve. They'll go from dirt, where the deer really aren't using them for hardly anything, to going into fresh greenery. Guys, another thing, when they do that, they leave a lot of wood and stuff like that. A lot of mushrooms and stuff grows. A lot of people don't realize deer eat them mushrooms and things. These areas are turned into prime food sources, and then after a period of time, they'll turn into where the deer will actually bed in them and eat, and stay in there, generally the whole time. But William, if I were you, I would definitely be checking this fence and keeping that in mind, because if you have the deer bedding on here, for the first few years, they're probably not going to use this as bedding area, because it's going to be fairly thin, unless there's just absolutely no hunting pressure over there. And they feel safe, because deer will actually bed wherever they feel safe, whether it's thick, wide, wherever they feel safe. Generally in heavy hunted pressure, and with a lot of heavy pressure and stuff like that, they'll get into thick areas, secluded areas, things like that. But I would definitely keep that in mind, that this is fixing to be, and I mean, when I say hot food source, I'm talking about deer can thrive in areas where they do logging. I mean, absolutely thrive. They have so much food available to them because they're browsers, and there's different. It's like going into a buffet. There's several different types of food available. So I would keep that in mind, because you're going to start noticing. And I know you just got permission to hunt this, but if you keep it for long, you're going to start noticing a lot of deer trails and stuff. I believe that are going to be coming off of your property if they're bedding here. And working their way out into here. The other thing I would do is try to keep the hunting pressure as to minimal as possible. Maybe leaving the center area as a sanctuary so that the deer will bed on it, and only hunt these outer skirts like you have here. You have some stands on these field edges, hunt them, and maybe set you a few stands back on the very back. But actually don't walk. I would set it to where I would not walk in here unless I absolutely had to recover a shot deer. And that is going to push the deer to bed in here, especially if you've got people hunting over here, because these look like fairly the same type of area. So the deer may bed over here, but if you've got people hunting and they're tromping through there and stuff, and you're not here, and there's no human sitting in it, guys, them deer will pick up on that a lot quicker and faster than you realize, as no human sitting here. And how you can do that by getting to your stand is just stay on the outer edges. Don't walk through. If you have a stand, even if you have a stand, right in the middle, don't walk straight through it. Stay on the outer edges. If you have to come through here or go through here and work the longer way, I would set that as a sanctuary, especially if you're hunting it by yourself. And if there is some other people, maybe you can get with them and y'all can work at that together, because that's going to get them deer bedding on your property, especially if there's hunting pressure around. Now, eventually, but you've got years to come. We're talking probably at least 4 to 5 years before this is going to be really super thick. And then when it does, it's going to be super thick. It's going to be honest with you, hard to get the deer not to bed into this area, because they're going to have food. They're going to have everything available to them other than water. I don't see any water. I see this water hole here right off the property. That's another thing. I think that's a water hole. And one spot here, I don't think it is, but if that's a water hole, it could be. But that's another spot you may want to keep in mind, because there's some water around, but it's actually pretty far distance for deer that, you know, say if they're bedded here and you have a warm, unseasonably weather or something, them deer got to have water. So you may see some trails, especially back in this back area here, right in here where my cursor is. I would definitely be looking at that because you've got water here, and you've got this is going to be turning into a food source that's unreal. I mean, it's unreal. Where I live, actually in Arkansas, there we have a lot of logging going on in the pines and stuff, and that is, you know, at first, you know, for a very narrow period, they ruin the land, but then after a couple years, the deer pile up in it and they love it because there's just so much food for them, and in the amount of food that it produces is able to support a lot more deer per square acre than any big forest of oaks or anything like that. Now, I mean, I know the farm country, you know, produces food, but the problem with them is when they harvest it, a lot of times in the winter when the deer need it the most, they don't have that food source, but these areas here still do, because you'll have winter type of weeds and different types of things, a lot of honeysuckles, a lot of different types of vines that'll grow up in there. But anyways, guys, I hope y'all enjoyed this video. William, I hope you enjoyed it. You know, just keep that in mind. You've got the areas here. This is, you know, my recommendations. Hunting them stands, I think they're fine. Keep the wind, and that would be the other thing. If you do set this as sanctuary, try to hunt where your wind is not going in there so much, because, you know, that's going to keep the deer from bedding in there much. You want to keep that wind, you know, blowing out into these fields as you're hunting this, and letting the deer come from here out into the fields and back and forth. Same with here. You know, maybe you don't really want the wind blowing to this area here, especially in the morning. But, you know, you can keep it where it's blowing out into this field here or back in this area. You know, just use a little sense about hunting the wind. And, you know, check out this back fence row. I would try to keep that as a sanctuary if you can, if at all possible, in the center, and only hunt the edges. It's not a very big property. Keep the hunting pressure down on it. Let them deer feel as safe as possible. And remember, this is going to turn into a food source, you know, whether you like it or not. This is going to be a huge food source, and it's going to, you know, take a lot of the deer away to feeding in there. But if you can develop this, you know, where they feel safe and they have a sanctuary in here, then by all means do that and let them deer. And you may be surprised at the amount of deer that will actually bed there. You know, especially as hunting pressure kicks in around. If you'll keep the hunting pressure down and you know, hunt that with the wind in the right direction to keep your scent out of there, you may be surprised at how many deer actually use this small area for a bedding area and then actually feed out into here, especially if there's hunting pressure. Hope you enjoyed the video. This is Jacob Schmidt with DeerHuntingSchool.com. Check out DeerHuntingSchool.com for more tips and information, things like that on deer hunting. Have a good day, and bye-bye.